Howdy, Aggs. Welcome to the Aggie Central post-game reaction. Each week during the season, I'll bring you analysis, takeaways, and film breakdown. You might ask yourself, why are you doing this? And why is it free? And so I got two quick answers for you. One, it's just something I enjoy. And so if you can benefit, then that makes me want to do it all that much more. We all have our 9 to 5, and we like to go do maybe what we enjoy outside of that. And this is mine, and so I hope you enjoy it. Two, the more I do it, the more I learn. I've learned a lot of tech stuff as well, trying to get this to you, but I've learned a lot more about the team, a lot about the process and the plays. So I like how close it puts me to that. It's also a way for me to give back. A&M gave me a lot, and so if this is one way I can give back, then I feel like this is what I can do for you all. If you feel compelled to do the same, then please, by all means, like and subscribe to the channel. I hope you like it. It lets me know that you do, and I can keep bringing you more stuff your way. So let's have some fun talking about numbers and film so you can hear the truth and see the truth. There's no better place to start off with the truth than talking about the QB position, right? Because that's what is on most people's mind. There was a couple of INTs thrown yesterday, and that's in the forefront. And then there were two, maybe three forced throws that are also areas of concern for you. Now, first off, I want to let you know it's healthy for you to be skeptical and have questions about it. You certainly should do that. It needs to be done in a productive way, and that's what I'm here to do. This kind of helps me cope with these situations as well, so I can work through them and I can make sense of them. But I'm gonna try and shoot you straight as I can and let you see what I've been able to wrestle with and how maybe it's changed my perspective. And so it's okay to have questions, because I do. So we're in the same boat, but let's make sure that we all have it firmly grounded in perspective. So take your initial thought on the QB position from yesterday, and I want you to go ahead and form an opinion about it if you don't already have one, and make it as bad or as good as you want it to be, okay? Because now I'm going to go through a progression with you, and I want you to hear everything I got to tell you, everything I got to show you, and then see if that matches the opinion you came up with, okay? And if it doesn't, let's talk about changing it. If it does, then let's talk about what changes need to take place, and we'll have good conversation about it either way. So let's start off with the QB position. King completed 20 of his 31 passes yesterday for 364 yards, giving him an 11.7 yard average. So go ahead and stop, take the first one. Is that what you thought it was going to be? Or did you have in mind that it might have been somewhere in the 200 to 250 yard range? Just something to think about. Let me get you some more. He had a 64.5% completion percentage with 3 TDs and 2 INTs. All right. In the first half, King was 50% in this area, and then in the second half, he ballooned up to 83%. Right. So this had to average out to 64.5. So first half not being so hot, 50%. Second half being quite hot, 83%. Now, in 2021, we had approximately 55 passes that went for 15 yards or more. In this first game, we had 9, almost 20% of what we did all of last year. Okay, almost 20%. So trending that way, and of course we're not always going to play Sam Houston State, but 6 games in, we should be right at that number already halfway through the season. Something to consider. And consider this, King may have had 2 INTs, but in 2.5 games of work, he's averaging 63%. So it's not like he's got one low and one high. He's pretty consistent. Yesterday he does 64.5%, right? For comparison, Calzada was giving us 56% last year on average. And that's to Haynes King's 64.5% yesterday against Sam Houston State, okay? And I'm going to put that out there as being almost a 10% increase, at least 7 or 8% solidly, right? But we only got 2.5 games to work with. Now, I know what you're saying. You're like, Sam Houston State. Fair enough, right? I will put out there that Calzada's highest game, best game last year was 71%, and that was against Prairie View. Worst game was right around 50% completion percentage against Arkansas, I believe, or it may have been Mississippi State, but neither one of them were very good. And it also took 67% out of him in the Bama game to win that game. Okay, so a few things there to be thinking about. Now, I also don't want you to forget that along that whole way, with the 56%, sometimes as low as 50, sometimes getting that 67% from Bama, there were interceptions along the way from Calzada, right? There were fumbles along the way. There were sacks along the way. There were misgivings along the way. Does the extra 10% of completions negate the extra INT perhaps we're going to be seeing from Haynes King along the way? Maybe, maybe not. Perhaps some of the other parts of the whole thing make it worthwhile because maybe we're running a bit more efficient offense. Maybe we can get plays run in such a way where we're handing them off and we're getting them where they need to go. There are a lot of other things to be thinking about when considering this whole position, right? So now, having said that, does everything I've just covered match your opinion? Admittedly, whenever I left the game, I was pretty hot, and it wasn't just because of the temperature of the game and how muggy it was. It was about the mistakes. It was about the 3 throws. And so I thought, what am I mad about? And I went to go look at the numbers, and I realized that basically what I was doing was I was mad about 3 throws, because 3 throws tied directly to Haynes King. There were 3 forces, probably 2 forced and or bad throws in the manner in which they were thrown, or direction, height, those kinds of things, right? And 2 of them resulted in INTs. So, you know, looking at the numbers, I then really decided that I'd overreacted at least a bit. It may not have been too far off, but it was at least a slight overreaction. So I felt like I had good reason to be concerned, but it just didn't quite sync perfectly with the performance. I'm you know, going back to, well, 364 yards passing. I feel like I was treating it like he'd maybe only thrown for 250, not 364. And I looked at some other numbers, which we'll get to a little bit later, because I want to continue to keep hitting this point home about how maybe off I was and how cautiously concerned I was going to be moving forward, even though I may be optimistic. So let's mix in a few other things, because we need to talk about the offensive and defensive lines too, to give us kind of a bit more of an overall idea about, you know, what we're seeing here. Because it's not all about the QB position. You remember last year when we're going into Kent State, Jimbo's talking about, well, the people around Haynes are going to have to step up their play. And we thought in large part that was going to be about the offensive line and the receivers. And the receivers really just didn't quite come. There were some throws that were not good, admittedly, from Haynes King, but the drops were pretty apparent and obvious. And that was difficult to stomach, and it happened all year long. Didn't see those yesterday. We really saw some very short hands, which is promising, but we did see some issues along the offensive line. So I want to show you those front and center. I'm going to slow things down. I'm going to run them back again, rinse, wash, repeat, so we can see them very slowly. And I hope that when you get through this, you have a very good idea about what we're looking at, where some of the problems were, and how they got changed through the second half. I'm also kind of hoping you're not really seeing this much anywhere else, and so hope this is something that keeps you coming back. So let's switch on over here, and let's get into some of this offensive line. I want to show you these plays. Now, right off the bat, starting down here, you can see on the lower edge here, the tight end, which I believe is actually playing as Demetrius Crownover right now, and Aggie. They're starting to pull. Okay, so they're moving across the line, and you've got the defensive end pulling out around the edge, Zune pushing, and then you've also got the outside linebacker going back in. So this is part of the stunting that they're doing. Let's see if we can slow this down for you a little bit more. Now watch the play develop. Aggie gets his block. Zune continues to push his man outside. Now don't forget about what the tight end did right there. Watch him slide inside. He's looking to pick up that gap right there. Wyckoff does it as well, and boom, they fill the gap. So Zune continues pushing his guy outside again. Pressure comes from around. Haynes King steps up, delivers a dime over to Anais. No big deal, right? I mean, hey, you got the protection. That's what you can maybe expect to come away with when that sort of thing's taking place. However, when it's not, similar play. Last go around, we're running 11 personnel with one running back, one tight end, but we got 21 here, 2 running backs, and similar situation. We got tight end, lower side down here, and him and Aggie are going to pull. See him pulling? 4 down linemen for Sam Houston State. Instead of the defensive end going outside on Zune this time, he's going inside and he's crossing face. Watch him work. Slow it down and rewind it, right? Because like you see Wyckoff on the ground right there at this moment. Something happens. Maybe it looks like they get their feet mixed up right there. Maybe got tripped up. Not exactly sure, but it looks like Robinson's coming over to help Wyckoff. And then Wyckoff's engaged, but then all of a sudden he gets looks like he got hit by Robinson pretty good there. And he ends up down. But anyways, the defensive end comes across Zune on the bottom, goes all the way across the field, makes the play. We still end up with about 3 yards, but what might that be if that defensive end wasn't able to get across Zune like that? So we got some stunting, some twisting, and something that we really struggled with in the first half to get a hold of. Let's take a look at another one. Again, similar situation. We are going to run this option play that I've not been real fond of, but maybe that's because we hadn't been running it quite right. Kind of like what we got going on here. So you see the pressure on Haynes King right there, right? So let's rewind it and look where that came from. Okay, that guy, he's on the right side defensive end. He's going to go inside Zune, miss, and then comes back inside. All right? So now we got pressure on Haynes King when it wasn't supposed to be there. And they're running the option. A chain right here at the bottom of the screen goes right by the defender. You might be thinking, well, why is he doing that? Why is he not blocking that guy? Well, it's very simple. The option is what's supposed to take care of that guy. He goes outside, Haynes King keeps and runs. He keys in on Haynes King, goes inside, and then King pitches to Anais and goes around the edge. But not really going to have that option to take care of that guy because of the defender coming that way. Not to mention what extra is coming our way with the other defender. So look, let's back this up again. Watch where the tight end ends up going. He's going to come down, and he's supposed to engage that linebacker just about here. And watch where his helmet goes. His helmet's going to go inside. He gets the chip on him, but that helmet should have been on the other side. He's supposed to keep him inside. But then now he's trailing, and the defender's, he's keyed in on Haynes at that time too. I definitely understand why we got a 2-yard loss on that. But again, how's that going to be on a quarterback on that kind of run, right? We're all pretty reasonable here. We understand that's going to need to get better from the offensive line standpoint, and something they did make better. Let's see them work again one more time here. Okay, so we got the defensive end. He's stunting around the edge again. It looks like the outside linebacker, who is kind of acting as the fourth lineman, he's going to go inside. Instead of going in and hitting the gap, though, he stays outside. And you can see Aggie and Wyckoff right in the middle, waiting for something to come in to the zone. Okay, meanwhile, we back it up and watch who's working on Robinson. The guy on Robinson on the right guard there, he goes inside and across his face, which Robinson was expecting probably a little bit of help from Wyckoff right there and didn't get it. Probably got away with a little bit of a hold there, but you know, he's kind of between him and Haynes King anyways, so maybe they didn't see it like that. But he still continues to push and provides at least a little bit of pressure on Haynes King, which we might want to see a better throw still, but we do understand where the pressure is coming from and how it got there now. So a lot more perspective to go around now once we've seen it like this. I know that's something that I struggled with before I watched this, and for me it was a pretty big eye-opener at that time. And you know, there's a lot of good things to speak about. Going to get into some more of the offensive stuff in a little bit because there's a lot of great takeaways as well there, and certainly on the defensive side. But I wanted you to be very clear, and I want to be transparent with you about what we got to see from the offensive line and what it was that got fixed in the second half, because those were the first half plays where we were struggling mightily, but we didn't do that as much in the second half. And so it's also evidence that we can make the changes quick, right? They may be happening, but it's not something to kind of throw our arms up about and get all in a twist about, because they can be fixed. The problems with Haynes King that he presented yesterday, they can be fixed, and they can be fixed quick. Certainly it's okay to be concerned that they may be persistent, because we've now seen kind of 2 years of them, or at least 2 games of them, not 2 full years of them, right? So let's not mischaracterize that. But 2 games of the same or similar kind of situation, right, to be rightfully a little concerned. But I will say that I think that the 2 games still were a little bit different. So we'll analyze that a little bit more here in the future. But let's transfer over to the defensive line, because we got some things to note with this, and some surprises and some non-surprises, although surprises in the way that they played. Starting off with Diggs. Diggs had 5 total tackles, 3 solo. That's exactly what I expected out of this guy, and it looks like he's going to fit in and take Clemens' place exactly like we thought he was. If you've been following this channel, that's what we thought. Shamar Turner and Walter Nolan, freshmen, getting in there with both with 3 and 2 total and solo respectively. Labius Overton getting in with 2 total, another freshman. Also Rakes, Toonmeese, Shamar Stewart, Anai White, Burris, and Regis, all recording stats, either tackle, sacks, or hurries. A lot of freshmen worked in there. And let me ask you this, did you notice any fall off in the play? If I wasn't looking for numbers, I wouldn't have known who was even in there. I would have just thought it was, you know, some 2nd or 3rd year guy who's, you know, maybe a young veteran playing, knows what he's doing. This is extremely encouraging to see this coming from the new guys, and the depth is just apparent. Wow. I mean, here's the thing. You could take this defense, you could cube it up, chop it up, and you could make a business out of selling these cubes to deer hunters in East Texas. I mean, these guys are so salty. Deer would come from all over to get a lick out of this. I'm not kidding. This is really talking about something, and we are going to expand on this moving forward, because there's a lot more to say about this, but I want to hit those highlights for a minute. But there's underlying things that we're going to have to flesh out, and we'll get to that. Other things to note, we had, despite the slow start, and it was a little bit on both sides, but more so on the offensive side, we still had 15 plays of 10 yards or more. 5 of those were 20-plus yards, 3 of 40-plus, and then we had 2 that were the 60-plus yard touchdowns, right? Evan Stewart and Chris Marshall had a combined 9 of our 23 catches. Anais had 6 more with 2 touchdowns. And this is a money year for him. We've been talking about this. I don't think he had one drop. Maybe he had one, okay? But that's a vastly different from last year. And we're looking at a guy who's getting back to form. Very, very encouraging from him. Also of note, Durkin. Durkin is really, really trusting our cornerbacks. Before we get into talking about that too terribly much, let's go over and take a look at these guys and watch them work more. That way you really got an idea about what they're doing. So here's that defense again. We're running 4 down linemen, and let's go through who all these are. I think you've got Labius Overton on the bottom edge there, Shamar Turner right next to him, and then Rakes on the right side tackle, and Toon Meese on the right side defensive end. Tyreek Chappelle closest to us at cornerback. I believe Damani's right next to him going up the field there. Then for linebackers, you've got Andre White and Chris Russell. We did work in Edgerrin Cooper, but I don't think he's quite in on this play yet, but he will be shortly. Far side of the field, you've got Brian George. Okay, so Brian George is in there playing for Jalen Jones, who is out today. Right behind him, Antonio Johnson. And then in the far back, you got Jordan Gilbert. Okay, so let's watch these guys work and see what they've got. Okay, so we got Press on the far side of the field with Brian George, and we got Chappelle closest to us. He's going to be playing man as well, but he's playing off. So defensive line works up the field. You see Rakes, he's basically got a double team at this point. Their guard comes around to help against Toon Meese, but we've got plenty of pressure right in his face. He scrambles, and of course on any scramble play, you got to have your head on a swivel because any guy's liable to break loose, which is exactly really what happened here. He breaks loose, they find a guy. It was a good play by the defense, but we did have a bit of a slow start, and we lost concentration. Here's it from another angle. So he's working out wide, and you'll see the guy call for the ball. And then he just does a good, there he is right there coming into screen, excuse me there. And then he's going to call for it and work back. So you see the holding that took place right there, and so this gets called back. Show that one more time. Here it is, just an egregious hold. Would he have gotten to him? I don't know. We would have liked to see better coverage on the backside anyways and somebody picking that guy up. But the other team's a team as well, and they're going to run plays. We can't always stop every little thing they do. All right, let's see what they can do as well. So very similar, but we've got press, looks like on both sides with the cornerbacks. 4 down linemen again. You're not going to see a blitz. You're not going to see any extra pressure come. Durkin's going to rely on this defensive line to get pressure with 4. And you see the 2 in the middle working against 3 and still getting through. They're trying to run a bit of a screen going on here, but Andre White's all over it, and he's coming in, going to take on 2 guys. If he had not dropped that, feeling pretty confident that Andre White was going to do that and get to that ball to make that tackle because he's a motivated individual this year. As we saw, once he got hurt late in the game, he popped right back up, mad about something. He's ready to have himself a year. Watch him work it very similarly again. Okay, again, getting massive pressure on there, and I want to rewind this so you can see exactly where the nice coverage is. So it looks like we're going to have 5 on the line here, right? But you got Edgerrin Cooper on the far side, not the far side, the close side to us, and he's going to be picking up that tight end right off the bat. He's making contact right off the line of scrimmage, right? And so this guy's working off him, and then he's going to try and make a move, but Edgerrin Cooper's, he's right there. So even if he was going to make that catch, it wasn't going to go for much. And you got to remember, it's 2nd and 20. We're trying to keep the ball in front of us so they can't turn anything up the field for a big gain. Similar situation going on with the next round. We've got 3rd and 20. So we're just going to work trying to get pressure with 4. We want to keep everything in front of us. We've got a lot of cushion, as would be expected with 3rd and 20. So we're going to keep everything in front of us. Watch the double team that Walter Nolan runs against right there in the middle of the offensive line. Cuts right in between those two guys. He is going to be a beast all year long. I just don't see any way this guy's going to redshirt at this point. Of course, they run this screen game and we swarm to the ball. Just exactly what we want out of a 3rd and 20. Let them get it, make that catch around the 3 to 5 yard mark, and then get to them before they can get to 10. Perfect play. All right, let me show you a little bit more on the offense now. All right, so this go around, you can see that same thing kind of happens again, right? Watch that right side defensive end cut right across Zune's face. He gets inside Zune, and so he's there already ready to turn that play inside back towards the other Bearcats. And really it's an easy takedown based off of that. Again, just illustrating for you exactly what kind of changes we needed to make and were able to make in the second half. Same thing with Layden Robinson pushing the guy inside. He might have kind of beat him, but Layden does what he needs to do. Actually, that was fathery, because he beat him across phase 2, but he pushed him inside. Haynes King worked on the outside edge to take advantage of that, and ran for the first down. I really want to see this guy taking a few better hits, and like to get Johnny in here to kind of go over some of the basics on how to attack the edge when being tackled, so that you're tackled in such a way that you're not going to be hurt. Few too many twists and backwards tackles on Haynes King that I'd like to see. All right, moving right along. Let's back this up again. I was looking for more pressure again. We've been giving up all kinds of pressure. We're running 5 linemen. They read pass mostly, but still brought plenty of guys. And this go around, though, we stay in our zone, keep our head on a swivel. You see Zune picking up the guy right there on the left edge, because when the guy went inside, he let Aggie take him. Chain's also filling in anything up the middle. We take advantage of Keith Brown's speed. Haynes King delivers a dart to him right in the breadbasket, and he housed it. He housed it after that. That was a beautiful sight to see when that took place. And you can just see again, when we have the coverage taking place from the offensive line, what are we getting out of Haynes King? I think it's pretty obvious. So there's plenty of concern to go around for Haynes King, but hopefully these highlights have really shown how the quarterback and the offensive line position are going to have to work in tandem to make this work. And we ought to spread a little bit of the concern around, so that we're being critical of all areas. Like I said, if it's the kind of criticism that we like to give around here, the healthy criticism, then we want to be critical for the purpose of getting better. That's our purpose. We don't want to do it. We're not here to get down on people and dog people. That's not how we do. We want to be honest for the purpose of growth. Okay, and that's mostly for the fans, because players aren't watching this page, coaches aren't watching this page, nothing like that at this channel. It's the fans, but we want to be honest with ourselves about what needs to take place, so that we can not formulate, huge overreactions like I wanted to do after I walked out of the game. So let me hit you with a few more key stats, though. The week 1 stats for total offense placed us 35th in the nation. I did not expect that. I had us thinking somewhere around the 50 to 60 mark. 35 was a surprise. Did not think 35 was possible. But even more impossible, whenever I looked up passing offense, we were 10th. 10th in the nation. I guess with 364 total yards, that gets you 10th, and that's quite a few passing yards, to be quite honest. It's just, but it didn't feel like it. I guess part of me was focusing on those 3 throws, and those 3 throws for me were characterizing my whole outlook on what this situation has been. But it is what it is, and you can go look it up. It's transparent as it can be. Just like in Jimbo's press conference. Asked about his concern about the offensive line, he said straight away, yeah, in the first half, he was concerned. He did not lie about it. And I'll be honest, I take kind of my cues from how he does things, so I can do some similar things here to you. I want to be transparent. I want to be honest. When he starts telling me a lie, I'm going to be concerned. If you feel like I'm leading you astray when I'm showing you some of these videos or talking to you about these stats, then I'd expect an unsubscribe, to be quite honest. But I don't think that's what you're going to get. And you can tell it real easily that's what you're going to get. So you can go look the stats up. And not saying I'm perfect. I'll make an error here and there. But this is straight away easy to tell. 10th in passing offense. That's pretty solid Saturday noon outing. It is. Transition over to defense. Total defense, 16th in the nation. Now, I had made a prediction that both would be in the top 30. I think maybe even one in the top 20. And so we're hovering right around there. And a couple of adjustments, and we might have both of them right where I had predicted. Still got some work to do, though. But 16th in the nation in total defense. How do you get there? Well, you allow only 107 yards rushing and then 91 yards passing. Which makes it less than 200 yards total offense for the entire game. Now, don't let that get lost on you, though, with that 91 yards passing, because that's kind of a big deal. The 200 yards sounds really great, and you're like, well, we still gave up 100 yards rushing. Okay, fine. But here's the difference. When you're rushing, you're looking for about 3 to 4 yards a carry, kind of minimum. If you can get up to 5, that's great. But here's how the averages work out. Let's say you got a 4-yard average, okay? Right in the middle. Not 3, not 5, 5 being a little bit higher and better. 3 just kind of being on the very low average side, right? But 4. So for it to be a 4-yard average, you could do something as extreme as 1 and 7, okay? And I want it to be as extreme as possible. And if you want to say it 0 and 8, that's fine. You can even go 0 for 1 carry and 8 for the second carry, and out of 2 carries, that gives you a 4-yard average. Okay, which one of those carries gave you a first down? Neither one of them, right? And so you've now had 2 plays and no first down. With passes, it's pretty average to have about 6.5 to about a 7-yard average. Okay, so to average 7 yards, you're essentially looking to get 14 yards in 2 plays. Pretty straightforward, right? So let's go very, very conservative on this, right? You could go 4 yards on 1 play and 10 yards on the other play, and it averages out to 7 yards per play. And out of those 2 plays, how many first downs did you get? You got at least 1, but running, you didn't get any. And this is how it works out. And this is why passing is so dangerous, because you can pass the ball twice and get a first down, and run the ball twice and not get a first down. And then you don't move the chains that way. So whenever you're holding somebody to, let's just say, instead of a 7 yards per play pass, and you're holding them to 3.6 like we did against Sam Houston State, you've got to understand about those are running statistics there. That's what people do when they average running, right? So they're having to run at least 3 pass plays just to get a first down instead of 2 previously. And so the odds are that eventually you're going to end up running into a couple of incompletions because your totals and your averages are not high enough for you to get that first down ever. And you can see how salty that makes your defense, because since we're holding the pass to such low numbers, we have got a very, very high upside because of that. Rushing, you don't have to worry about as much. I mean, it hurts, don't get me wrong, but because the yards just aren't there to always consistently move the chains every couple 2 to 3 plays. Even if when you're running the ball well, you have to throw it to still be able to get first downs. And so this is one of the strengths that our defense may give us this year moving forward. Sam Houston State passed their 42-yard line once in the first half. And that ended up at an INT down on the 20-yard line when Andre White tipped the ball and Jordan Gilbert intercepted, right? Let me say that again. They passed their 42, not our 42, their 42, meaning they didn't get across midfield in the first half more than just the one time, okay? Like I said, you just cube that up and sell it to deer hunters all day long. The defense forced 6 3-and-outs in the first half. And that's a defensive effort there with all these things involved that still puts these 10-2s for the season in play because of the way that pass defense is operating, and just how stingy they're being. When we have an offensive output of only 31 points, we can still expect to win a fair amount of games. Now, I will say my hope was that we would score somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 points. Now, I got to thinking about that a little bit more because I also talked about what I thought the defense should allow and what the offense should give up. I think after I gave it a little bit more thought, I thought that a differential would actually communicate better what I wanted to convey, which was that I'm more interested in the relationship between how much we score versus how much we allow. And I was hoping that differential was going to be somewhere in the 40-point range, okay? And we didn't do that. We didn't do that on this game. But that's what I really wanted to see. It wasn't, I think, so much about the 45 to 50 points was the differential. So we have some work to do still for us to get there, but 31 points based off of the defensive effort that we're given really puts a lot of this stuff still in play for highly successful season. And I'll put it to you this way too, because in that defensive effort, when you've got teams that are looking to put up 30, maybe 35 points in a game, and we may be struggling to put up that many points against their defense, because here we are struggling to get 31 against Sam Houston State. Our defense is going to have even, you can only keep an offense to so few points. You can't go lower than 0 is what I'm trying to say. So if Sam Houston State was only going to score about 10 points anyways, we only were able to knock them down by 10 points. But a team that is averaging 35 points a game, we could potentially hold them 20 points fewer than what they are averaging. So you see the strength that could come in that. And so if we're got a team that's averaging 35 and now they're only averaging 15, well, heck, we only got to get 2 touchdowns and about a field goal, and we're right in this game. Couple that with we're taking so many shots downfield now, more so than we used to, the chances are we're going to hit some of those. And so when we hit some of those, they're either maybe going for a touchdown like it did with Yule Keith, or you're shortening the field significantly, and then you're giving yourself a higher chance of putting one in the end zone, because of essentially you just returned, let's say, a punt for 40 yards, but it was a pass play, and of course you're getting a first down, you get a new set of downs, and now you're first and 10 from their 15. That makes a huge difference. So we can hit a few of those in games, and our defense hold them to those totals we're talking about. We have a lot of potential still left on the table, even though it wasn't really what we wanted to quite see against Sam Houston State. So you're not hearing a different message from me. Again, I didn't get what I wanted to get out of it, but I think you understand what I was trying to communicate now that I've actually been able to really internalize it more. I really do wish I would have seen that 40-point differential still. But I think what I'm more frustrated about than the INTs are the punts that we had in the first half. I would have liked to have seen us complete passes in a way that continue to march us down the field and get scores like we should have been able to do. But as you've seen on the film, it's kind of hard to do that when you've got some miscommunications up front. But also say that to mention again that they got fixed, and they'll need to get fixed moving forward for that to make us as efficient as possible. And if we were more efficient like we were in the second half, we would have had those 2 extra touchdowns, and that would have put us somewhere in the 45 point range. But of course we didn't. And if we hadn't thrown the INTs too, it would have ballooned us up even more. So we had a lot of self-inflicted wounds that we've got to clean up. And Jimbo said that's on him. So I fully expect them to address that. We have App State coming up next Saturday. So preview for that coming out tomorrow, hopefully Tuesday by the latest. So catch that because I'll I will give you the ins and outs of pretty much everything you need to know for that. And so if you want to get that, make sure you've liked and subscribed so you can get it right to your doorstep, okay? And with that being said, I want to wrap it up for tonight, and we'll look forward to next week. We'll see what changes are going to be made and how this offense is going to progress, and see if that defense can stay as stingy as they've been. So until then, we'll see you on the flip side. Thanks and gig 'em.